Welcome to the second episode of Mostly Common Sense with the great Bruce Backman.
Hey, how are you? I don't know how great I am, but I appreciate the kind words.
Moshe Frank here. We are shortly after the elections, and so a lot going on.
Sure, there's a ton going on.
We never had such a liberal mayor ever, right, Bruce?
Liberal? No, we never had a mayor like this before.
Ever.
I mean, John Lindsay in the late 60s, early 70s, but not this, no.
But I see.
But we don't know. He hasn't been mayor yet. Well,
Right.
I mean, but some of the things he's done in his first week lead one to believe that he's very liberal. Everybody's excited about the Jessica Tisch thing.
Right.
But that's something that the governor kind of seems to have pushed onto him in exchange for him getting the funding for some of the projects he wants.
Which project?
That's my gut.
That's
I
your
mean,
gut.
The busing, the tax increases, all that kind of stuff. She's not going to. Political capital is like money. You only have so much of it. So if you're going to use it in one place, you have to save it somewhere else. It's like anything else. It's money. You want to spend more on dinner,
currency.
you have to maybe skip breakfast. So you want the help when it comes. She's running for election next year.
Right.
So if you want the help next year from, if he wants the help to do all this stuff, and she doesn't seem opposed to a lot of the things in theory, well, it's going to be a tough sell for her upstate. It's going to be a tough sell for her if they raise taxes. So if public safety becomes an issue in New York City, that's a problem. And with all due respect, Jessica Tisch has been a pretty good police commissioner, by all accounts. Police crime numbers are down. She's probably the most well-liked member of the Adams administration. So moving forward, it was a pretty good move. So she probably insisted on it in exchange for anything moving forward. Because she can't go out on a limb on everything. She has to have something to say that she got in exchange for it. She hasn't said this publicly yet, but it's clear that there's a behind-the-scenes negotiation going on. Even the thing with Hakeem Jeffries this week.
What was
where there's a gentleman in Brooklyn, Chai Asse, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but his last name's Asse for sure. He's a city councilor. He wants to run for Congress against Hakeem Jeffries. Hakeem Jeffries is seen as being lukewarm or tepid towards the Mamdani mayoralty, and Chai Asse represents the DSA in New York City. So now she said he's running, and then Mamdani said that maybe he shouldn't. And that was a big departure for Mamdani to do that because he's a DSA guy through and through.
What's the DSA?
Democratic Socialists of America.
Gotcha.
He's a DSA guy through and through, and here you have a DSA guy running against a guy who's not a DSA guy, so one would assume that he would support him. But again, Mamdani has an agenda he wants to push, get done, institute, implement, get funds for. Again, political capital is money. You only have so much to use, and if you use too much in one place, you don't have anything anywhere else. So it was not a war or a fight he wanted to have. It made a lot of sense. I mean, from a political perspective, it was very good politics. From a purely sitting on the back watching him negotiate it, those were good moves.
With his very little...
They weren't good moves for me. I don't like the guy. It was good moves for achieving his agenda.
For someone with limited experience like himself, he clearly had... With his current maneuvering, he obviously has good people surrounding him who are directing him, advising him what to do, right? Would you say?
Good people?
Or people know what's up?
He has people who've been around New York City politics. I mean, the good people, I wouldn't call them good. I don't like them. It's not my crowd. It's not the crowd of a lot of people. It's not the crowd for 49% of people who just voted in the election. It's a crowd of some people, and he's going to pick people who are aligned with his agenda. I think one of the interesting picks, he picked a guy named Foulahan, who was on the one of the state boards that oversees budgetary spending in New York. And that was a very interesting thing because I think he's prepared for the fact that the city may default with a lot of his plans. And if the city defaults, he loses control over the funding of New York City. And then everything goes to the state. So he took a guy who had a seat on that board and put him in his administration in preparation for the fact that there's a better than average chance that he's going to lose control of the city budget.
I think the city budget currently is fine?
In 1970s, when New York City was having financial issues and it was almost bankrupt, and the famous picture in the Daily News of Gerald Ford, the city of New York, dropped dead. If anybody knows the history, A. Beam was the mayor. We'd had 8 years of Mayor Lindsay. New York City was pretty much broke. Those were the worst years in New York in the 70s, financially and otherwise. And they went to Albany to try to get money. They couldn't. Then they went to Washington to try to get money. Finally, they got money in loan guarantees. But in exchange for the loan guarantees that gradually bailed New York out of the financial predicament, there was, let's say, guardianships and trusteeships that were imposed on the city. So if they get too below their deficit funding levels, the city comes right in and they take over the budgetary process to a certain degree in New York. So for a guy like Mamdani who wants to do all this stuff, if he's going to start running big deficits, he's going to lose control of the budget process. So he took somebody who was familiar with the way that works and brought him into the administration.
This government shutdown.
This is very boring and technical
Yeah,
for a lot of people.
exactly.
But
So-
it's not really boring. He's preparing, now let's put it in layman's terms. He's preparing that the city is going to have trouble. And his plans are too expensive and we can't afford them.
And he's
so now he's
preempting.
prepared for what he's going to do when that happens. So he's bringing in people who are prepared when all hell breaks loose. He brought in this guy was a very random pickup. He knows that what he's about to do is going to make trouble, so he's hiring firefighters before they start the party.
Before the fire.
Before the fire? No, the party hasn't started, but there's a likelihood of a fire during the party. That makes it clearer?
The government shutdown. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Who looks good? Who looks bad?
At the end of the day, the Democrats look bad.
Because they held up money and food stamps from the people.
Because they were the ones who could have passed the budget the whole way along, and the media played along during the election for reasons that the mainstream media always plays along, but they played along that it was a Republican thing. It was never a Republican thing. The Democrats always had to do was get another 8 votes, go to cloture, and then they would have passed everything. Remember, the bill that was on the table was not different than the 14 bills that everybody had voted for before. It was the same bill. The only thing is, now the Affordable Care Act, which is the healthcare subsidy that was passed in 2021 to help people pay premiums on, the Obamacare, the healthcare stuff that was passed by Obama when he was president, was coming due. They put a sunset period in it in 2021 for whatever reason, and now is the sunset period. So they said, we're not going to negotiate another CR and pass another CR unless if you agree
What's
to
a CR?
A continuing resolution.
Okay.
We're not going to agree to keep on funding the government unless if you do something about the fact that all this money for healthcare
So
is going to diminish and disappear.
So what they're ultimately fighting about is giving more money to the healthcare system for lower income people, would you say?
Not just lower. No, it wasn't lower income people at all. It was all different kinds of people. People earning over $200,000 are getting healthcare subsidies today.
Full subsidies.
Not full, partial. It depends.
So who said? So the Democrats wanted full subsidy
During Obamacare, they instituted
So
additional.
what did each team? Republicans wanted not to pay for
I
subsidies.
don't know what the Republicans wanted on the ACA. I think there's a lot of votes in the Republican Party to extend the ACA benefits, honestly. But they didn't want to link it to the continuing resolution to keep the government funded. And the Democrats wanted a linkage. It was a political play. Honestly, Schumer didn't want to do it. Schumer was pushed into it because he's scared of the far left flank in his party who doesn't really understand how the government works. I mean, there was no way to get them to do this. This was the monks, and Schumer went along with it for his own political posterity, but it was dumb, and eventually it wasn't going to last. And when the election was over, they had achieved all their goals. They won the Virginia governor's race,
So
they won
even
the
though
New Jersey governor's race,
And New York.
and they're not going to get what they want doing that, so they should have called it a day. They achieved some stuff with it and finished with it.
How'd they win all these elections if they were quote unquote the ones holding up the budget?
Because during the election, the media Trump was losing the argument on it, and the media was helping. Everybody who knows anything knows that the Democrats had the ability to pass that CR. The Republicans passed
who ended up giving
numerous
in?
times.
Who ended up giving in? The Republicans or Democrat?
Eventually,
Okay.
the Democrats gave in
Had to
because
give in.
because Trump was saying no, and the Republicans had no incentive not to.
Got you.
I mean, the ACA is going to get voted on separately, and if you ask me personally, I think they're going to end up passing something for the ACA. That's my opinion.
So right now,
I don't know if they're going to pass. What
So
they
right
did
now,
to
it's a
pass,
temporary
but they're gonna pass
band-aid.
something.
It's another extended band-aid.
Well, not on the ACA. There's no extended mandate on the ACA.
So that means
but that's coming due.
So what does it mean practically for a regular person that they'll start having to pay premiums now?
Some of them, no, it wasn't all of it. Obamacare, it was some of it. Obamacare is a mess. It doesn't make any sense. It's not the best piece of public policy. One could argue the merits of having a government policy that maintains the ability for lower income people to have health insurance. That's a fair debate. But the way it did it, not good. Listen, it can't pay for itself. It's bankrupting the government. It constantly needs
So
higher and
by
higher
the end, now
infusions
that
of
they
cash.
settled the budget,
I mean, the problem with the ACA. You know why all these young people are mad? Let's bring it to Mamdani.
Okay.
Why all the young people in America are so mad? You know how much healthcare is for a young person in America today?
how much?
A lot. You know why? Because they're subsidizing the healthcare of old people. Because that's what Obamacare did. It put the cost of health insurance for older people, which was very high, and very high because they use a lot of it at a certain age, and they put it on the backs of young people. And it raised the rates of health insurance. Young people didn't want to buy health insurance. So then, because they didn't want to pay for the health insurance, now we need the subsidies to subsidize people who can't afford to pay for it because we have to subsidize the old people. It's a whole bait and switch. There's not enough money to sustain this. It doesn't make any sense. Like, if you're 23 years old and you get a job at a Fortune 500 company, you're paying the same health insurance as someone who's 63, who's getting cancer screenings every couple of years. And you're 23 and you're in tip-top health and you're going to the gym every day, your health insurance is the same. Why? And your health insurance is high, and for the older person, the health insurance is very good. That for an older person, the health insurance is very good, right? Because look, they're not paying so much money for it. So it's amazing. But they're paying for it because young people are paying for it.
So
the entire tax code now is on the backs of the young people. I mean, that's what we're pretty much doing in this country constantly. Young people are paying the Social Security, and they're paying the Medicare. All these things have deficits. So everything's coming out of young people's paychecks, and then they can't afford anything anymore. There's a question whether young people should even have expensive health insurance plans.
And is it mandatory?
Yes, that was part of what Obamacare did. It mandated you have to have health insurance. You have to pay a tax otherwise. What do you mean? Bill Clinton, at the time when they pushed this years ago, he said that this is crazy. You know, he had an old clip, and he's like, this is not such a good idea. But they had to try to get it through. And then the insurance companies were so excited because all these new people were going to be entering the system. A whole thing with the what is it, the pre-existing conditions, that's a great one.
What's the whole thing,
That, you know, you can change insurance with pre-existing conditions. Listen, I know people who it benefits tremendously, and it saves lives. So I'm not questioning I'm not questioning people.
I mean, it used to be that if you had pre-existing health, if you just got cancer, you can't switch health insurances.
No, well, why should you switch health insurance? You're going to go to the better health. You had cheap health insurance your whole day. Now you're sick, you go to the good health insurance, and you paid low premiums, and now you're going to the high premiums. So the high premium company is only raising rates on the low premiums.
So it doesn't sound sustainable.
No, I mean, the far left's goal one day is to have a universal system. Everybody should have health insurance. The only problem with it is every country in the world that has that doesn't really have good health care. And they always tell you, but what about these countries? Canada sucks, okay? It sucks.
Right.
England sucks.
Right.
France isn't bad, but they're paying 80% health insurance, 80% in taxes today, if you include all of the ways they're paying tax in the government there.
80%?
It's about 80. For higher income owners, about 80. When you figure it all. What do you mean? In France, you have an 18% VAT. You're paying 50% you're paying 50% on your income. You're already at 68. I mean, it's high. America's not that high. So to do a lot of that stuff, it costs money. And then they say, well, let's not have wars. Let's not do this. Well, I don't want to have wars, but there's bad people in the world, and we need to have a big army. I don't want to have an army. I don't want to go to war with anybody, but that's not the world we live in. I don't want to lock the door outside my house, but if I don't, someone may rob my house. I don't live in a world where people don't do that.
Speaking of mandatory government financial fees, what's your opinion about Social Security?
Again, it's a problem. We don't have enough money in the system to pay for it.
Because?
People are living longer, they're retiring earlier or later, and the life expectancies are going on, and we can't sustain it. To properly fund Social Security in this country, you'd have to probably bring Social Security up to about 25% of income just to cover it. 25%. Right now it's about 13. You're paying 6.5 or 14, and your employer's paying 6.5. And if you're a sole employer, you're paying all of it. But then if you really wanted to, and you'd have to raise the retirement age to 70, or one or both, and all those things are choices nobody wants to make. Listen, if you've been working as a waitress or a construction worker or a teacher or in healthcare your entire life, and you're on your feet until you're 65, when 65 comes, you need to retire. And you've been waiting to retire. You're tired. Retired. I'm tired. That's enough. They can't do those hours anymore. Even in the 60s, it's hard to do it. So then to go to someone and say, hey, listen, we're you got to work another 5 years. Can't do that. We're going to cut your benefits. I'm depending on this. I've been paying into it for many, many years.
The past two presidents are over 70.
It's very, very difficult. It's very difficult.
The past two presidents are over 70, right? They were 70. Yeah. Trump, Biden, 75,
They should
80.
have been collecting Social Security.
So if they could be president of the biggest country, strongest country in the world, don't you think maybe people should be working longer, perhaps?
I mean, there's a couple of easy fixes to Social Security that wouldn't be bad. Just take the cap off of income, which is not popular with Republicans, but then you would raise the amount of money from higher income people going into Social Security. Because right now, at a certain point, it's capped. The other thing is that there should be means testing. If you're a billionaire, should you really be collecting Social Security at 90 years old? Now, but once you do that, then the program really becomes a welfare program, and it's not an entitlement that you paid into. And
where does the money go to when you give Social Security?
It goes into the general fund. This is a very technical interview. I hope people are
Okay.
going to be interested in this.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
No, it's
So where does the
very
money go
technical
to?
stuff.
They invest the money or it collects
No,
interest?
it goes into your Social Security money today.
Yeah.
Goes to pay the Social Security money of people who are retired.
Oh, so it doesn't stay and gets invested in its interest on everything like that?
Not at all.
Not at all. So it goes straight to the old
Invested? Invested where? No, it doesn't get invested. It goes to the government, and it gets spent, and there's a deficit on it. And they're borrowing money to give Social Security. If they're not already, it's coming. It goes into Social Security Trust Fund. You know, in the year 2000, when Al Gore was running for president, there was talk of something called the lockbox. We're going to lock up the money in Social Security so it would never get pulled from other parts of the government. To put Social Security into a lockbox. How far we've come from those years. I mean, the deficits are off the charts. You know, the Social Security is running deficits. It's going to be bankrupt in, I don't know, 8 years, 9 years. And then they're just going to have to have more deficit spending to pay for it. Or they're going to cut benefits, or they're going to raise taxes.
Bruce, what's your opinion about the upcoming presidential election, J.D. Vance and whoever else?
I'm not a fan of J.D. Vance.
Why is that?
I told you last time you had me on, I don't like J.D. Vance.
You did already?
I don't like J.D. Vance.
Because?
I won't vote for him.
Because?
Why?
Yeah.
Because he's coddling bigots. And if you're coddling bigots, you don't have a place in the Republican Party. With all due respect, I've been in the Republican Party longer than J.D. Vance. And, you know, I'm older than he is. I've been around the Republican Party longer than he is. And not that I'm a very important person. I'm not the Vice President of the United States, and nor am I ever going to be. But he's really kicking the football down the road on these issues. And it's not just because I'm concerned about anti-Semitism. He's coddling very bad people.
Like?
Listen, let's be honest. A significant portion of Republican voters are made up of people who are bigoted. A significant portion of Democratic voters are made up of bigoted people in a different way. But the Republican Party has a problem now. You have the rise of this Nick Fuentes, who's a parasite. You know, he's a parasite. He's a lowlife. He's disgusting. He's a racist. He's a bigot. He's every negative thing rolled into one. The one thing he has going for him is he's kind of funny, so he gets away with it. But I don't find it funny. It's not funny at all. And the fact that he goes on a show like Tucker Carlson and nobody wants to call it out. You don't put a guy like that on TV. You don't raise his profile.
What are his
profiles.
racist opinions in general?
What are his not racist opinions?
Okay, I don't follow him.
He doesn't like
at all.
Jews.
Right.
He doesn't like African Americans.
Uh-huh.
He's not really a fan of Hispanics. He doesn't like immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal. Doesn't make a difference.
What's his background? Where's he from? Fuentes
He doesn't like anybody really.
Fuentes is what, Latino?
I don't know what his background is. It goes to show you that if you say crazy stuff, people will listen. The problem is in the past when somebody says crazy stuff, we don't listen. We put it on the side. We ignore it. And now he's being elevated, and they're bringing him around, and they're quoting him. I mean, there are theories right now that a significant portion of the Republican base likes what he has to say. And there's visions that a lot of people on the left in some corners like other parts of what he has to say. And J.D. Vance has been given multiple opportunities in the last couple of weeks to say he's not good for the Republican Party, and he's passed. He keeps on passing.
Is Fuentes allowed on YouTube and other platforms?
What?
Is he allowed on all the platforms or no?
Who, Fuentes?
Yeah.
He's allowed on any platform. The question
Saying he
is
wasn't
whether
banned,
one of the
then how
top
bad-
podcasters in the world,
Right.
who used to be a star at the Fox News channel and at CNN and MSNBC, should be bringing him on. You know what? You want to bring him on to talk? Let him talk. But at least ask him some tough questions. I mean, he has some crazy statements. You know, in that interview we had with Tucker Carlson, he said he likes Joseph Stalin, and Tucker Carlson's like, oh, okay. Joseph Stalin killed millions and millions of people. He's a very bad man. It's not up for debate how bad he is. He's a very bad man. This is indisputable. And he's like, oh, okay. And then, you know, nobody wants to push back against Tucker because the truth is Tucker represents a group of people in the Republican Party today who make up the makeup of the broad party. I wouldn't say the party, voters to the Republican Party. Nobody wants to diminish them because they need their votes. You know, everybody's walking on the fence because they don't want to lose them. They need them. They think they need them. But I would argue that there's a lot more people they may lose if they don't distance themselves.
So
It's not going to happen now, but it's coming.
Is there a force in the center? I mean, the extremes, you know, right? We have Zoran,
You're going to start
they
seeing
have
a rise in the center.
Fuentes, like
There will be a rise in the center.
There will be a rise.
There will be a rise in the center.
Could
I
you-
don't know when it's going to come, but it's coming. Listen, J.D. Vance can do two things. He can distance himself from the movement. He can get tough on the movement, which he should, because it's a bad movement. And his wife is from a Southeast Asian or Asian background. I think she's Indian or something.
Indian.
And, you know, he makes comments about her. I mean, you know, Nick Fuentes goes around and calls him, like, names. He called his wife a jeet. I don't even know what that is, but it doesn't sound good. And that's recent. Those are videos that are out there within the last little while. It's not from 20 years ago. And he's just like, keeps on punting the football. And then when he gets asked questions about anything having to do with Jews and the Jewish people in Israel, his answers are lukewarm or tepid at best because he's playing to that audience. So if you ask me if I'm a fan of his, I'm not. And I won't vote for him in the primary. No, in the primary for sure not. And in the general, I mean...
Who's your current favorite pick for the presidential upcoming?
Mine? Glenn Youngkin, the former governor of Virginia.
Glenn Youngkin is a Republican.
Yeah, that would be my pick.
What does he do now?
If he's running, he was the governor of Virginia. He's running around Iowa. I know he wants to run. He would be my pick. He would be the best pick for the Republican
Party. He has a shot?
I mean, if Trump's not popular, he's going to have a shot for sure.
If Trump's not popular.
If Trump's not popular, nobody's going to want to go near J.D. Vance. It's going to be like a disease.
Is he? What's Trump now? Is he popular or no?
He had good job numbers today. I think Trump overall is going to ride through and be okay. But at the end of his term, you're still midway in the term. There's going to be a Trump fatigue. It's going to come. As much as I like Donald Trump overall, not in everything, but overall, at some point there's going to be a fatigue. And the fatigue is going to set in, and then there's going to be people in the party. There's a good article in Breitbart this week about the Bush people. There was a big funeral today. Dick Cheney died, and they had his funeral service today in Washington. And I listened at my desk earlier before I was listening to the proceedings. Trump wasn't there, Vance wasn't there, but the Cheneys were there, the Bushes were there, Biden was there. A lot of Obama didn't come, Clinton didn't come. And I heard George W. Bush speak. He gave a speech about him. It was, how do I put it? After eating Trump's food for so many years, it was very enjoyable. It was pleasant. It was nice. It was kind. It was humble. It seemed genuine. And it was definitely toned down from the political discourse that we've had in this country over the last many years. Now, I'm not a Bush lover by any means. I have a lot of issues with the Iraq War. I think a lot of people do. But the tone of politics then is not the tone of politics now, at least not on the professional level. Maybe amongst people, they hated Bush, they hated this, they protested in the street. I lived through it. But the way Bush spoke was very humble. And I think that humility is one of the most valuable assets that a politician can have. And as much as I may like Donald Trump, and I voted for Donald Trump, and I've supported Donald Trump, I think America's looking for leaders who are a little bit more humble. I think humility would be a very healthy change for this country. Obama wasn't very humble. Trump is not very humble. Biden's humility was fake. But George W. Bush was very humble. And I think it's a very...
Does politics attract humble people? It's not notorious for attracting humble people.
It should. I mean, if you look at in the Bible, I mean, the best leaders are the ones who are sought for leadership, not the ones who seek it out themselves, right? Aren't they the best usually? Aren't they? Don't they turn out to be the best leaders? The people who run from it are always. I mean, Moses himself ran from it, right?
Right.
Moses ran from it. He didn't want it. He had a lot of impediments. And was there anybody in the Bible more humble than Moses himself? I mean, think about it. Humility is a real value, and it's sorely lacking in our public discourse today. The concept that, I'm not bigger than my job. I'm just a person who has an important job to do, a role to fill within society. And, you don't get carried away with the pomp and the ceremony, thinking that you're better than everybody else. I'm not saying George W. Bush is the most humble person ever, but the way he spoke today was humble. And I think America's looking for that. I think if they're not looking for it now, the search for it is coming. Eventually, they're going to be hungry for it. They're not going to want these kind of leaders. Look, podcasts, classic example. People love podcasts today. Podcasts don't make any sense. We live in a world where everybody can watch Instagram and social media, see 10-second, 30-second, 20-second clips with music and make your own special effects. And what are people running to now? Podcasts. So let's listen to 2, 3, 4, 5 people have a very long-form conversation.
Rich, are you surprised people are actually enjoying what you have to say?
I have to say.
Yeah, are you surprised?
Somewhat.
You're somewhat surprised.
I mean, I think I say some interesting things. I think I have interesting thoughts, but I don't think I'm smarter than anybody else.
along the line, you said that you're humble.
I get very, very mad when some people make I'm very mad today about the nature of the excusing of what I view as people who are incorrigible and disgusting. I don't have a better word. They're disgusting. Tucker Carlson is bordering on disgusting. It's disgusting. Candace Owens is bordering on disgusting. Nick Fuentes is bordering on disgusting. It's not just that I don't agree with them. They don't like Israel. They have issues with the policies of Israel. Then, you can have a fair debate about those things. That's not what they're doing. If that was what they were doing, then I would have a different viewpoint.
You said today we have TikTok and people are getting into podcasts. So what does that mean?
It means that people are looking for more substance. They feel that everything's nonsense. It's not real. They want more. Donald Trump, there's a part of him that's very real because he says what he thinks. But there's a part of you that wants somebody who's a little bit more humble. I think I want somebody more humble most days. Why do you have to attack the lady from the ABC News, the reporter this week, and call her piggy or something? I'm sure there's an excuse for it, but was it necessary? Do you really have to do this? Is this really where we become? So I'm calling Tucker Carlson disgusting. Well, I think he is disgusting, but I think he started it. I'm just reacting to it. Maybe that's how Trump views it in his mind. But when I say he's disgusting, I'm saying I watch it and I'm in disgust because a lot of the things he says are offensive. And not just offensive to me. They're offensive to a lot of people. They're offensive to people who used to have disagreements on certain issues, and then they watch his show, and they see him have a neo-Nazi come on, literally a neo-Nazi, an avowed fan of Hitler, and give him a softball interview. Interview Vladimir Putin, give him a softball interview. When they talk about Candace Owens, she had on a guy this week who has blamed America for 9/11, who's made crazy statements towards Jews and other ethnic groups in the United States. I think his name is Myron Gaines or something. Some guy, I don't know what, I think that's his name on social media. And she had him on, and they're just talking like there's nothing wrong. Myron Gaines is not a person who should be elevated in public discourse based on the things he's saying. In the olden days, before we had social media and before we had podcasts, we used to have 3 networks, and everybody hated it because there was all this control. But one of the things the 3 networks control did was it kept crazy people off of airwaves. It didn't elevate Mishagoyim. Now we're elevating Mishagoyim all the time. The person who says the most outlandish crazy thing, he gets the most clicks. So you're incentivizing more people to say more outlandish crazy things, and more racy things, and more arrogant things, and more racist things in many cases. How much can I push the envelope? Just like in the olden days in magazines, sex sells. Well, when it comes to podcasts, racism sells, and discrimination sells, and attacking people for their religious beliefs or their political views sells. Politics was always a dirty business. It was a dirty business in the 19th century, going back to the 1850s and even before. But today, because of social media, everybody's getting in on the fight. In the olden days, most people sat around and watched in the boxing ring as people fought. Now everybody's getting in the boxing ring and beating each other up. It's not a very healthy thing for social discourse.
With the new building of is it East Wing or the West Wing, the big ballroom? East Wing?
I think the building of the East Wing, I think that stuff is fine.
So
I'm in favor of it.
So my question is,
I was in the White House right before they started the construction.
Nice.
I went, and I spoke to the people in the gift shop who are lifelong volunteers or workers in the White House. And I said, what are your thoughts on this? And they said there's nowhere to really entertain heads of state. The East Room, where they just had the Saudi dinner this week, only seats about 200 people, maybe 210. So they can't have all the members of Congress. They can't have all the members of the administration come to the event. It's super, super exclusive. Now you're going to build a ballroom, and now more people can be included in it.
So my question...
I don't see it as a detriment. Maybe it's not pretty. You don't like the style of it. Okay, fine. But the concept of having a bigger place to host events, I think...
So my question is not the historical, but who's paying for it, and what advantages do big companies or wealthy people have
in building a room in the White House?
Spent investing or donating $300 million to the White House. What access do they get with that a regular poor person like me cannot get?
People are getting access to all different kinds of things. At least this is going to the benefit of the whole country. It's not going to the campaign's pockets. You can ask that question about any candidate.
Yeah, it's a general question. It's specific. I'm talking about the East Wing building. In general, lobbyists and special interest groups, whatever you want to call it, what type of quote unquote legal access are they getting that regular folks do not have?
I have no
and how does
evidence
that
they're
play?
getting
And how does that
anything.
work?
They're not. If that's where they're getting money, it's not through there. I think Trump wanted to do this. He went to people and said, "Do you want to be a part of it?" And their names are going to be on the wall, and it's going to be done. Are they getting more access to Trump because of it? I don't think so. I haven't seen evidence of it yet. I think when you give a lot of money to Trump's campaign, you're getting access. I think you give him a lot of money to Biden's
And what does
campaign.
access mean? For what is that? How do you translate
Big
that
donors' phone calls gets returned. How's that?
for whatever they need?
I wouldn't say everything, but most of it, yes. If you're a big donor to a campaign
Yeah.
and you need a favor,
Yeah.
politician's going to answer the phone.
So what does it mean a favor? And I just want to know how it plays out.
What do you mean? There's all different kinds of favors.
So the street in my block needs to be repaved, right? I just gave. Let's say you just bring it local. I gave my city councilman
you make
$10,000 donation.
You make
If I
a
call,
fundraiser in your house for your local city council
Yes.
person.
And I need my road to repave.
100 people, you raise $100,000 in
Yes.
a fundraiser. $50,000.
Yes.
It's a city council raise. That's a lot.
Yeah.
You raise $50,000, $30,000 for
Yes.
the fundraiser. At the fundraiser, you go over to the city council person in your district, and it's Crystal Hudson.
Right.
And you say, "Hey, Crystal, thank you for coming to this event." You say some nice things about her, how she's such a good activist for the neighborhood and the community, fights for us. When the event's over, you go over and say, Crystal, outside my house here, there's a lot of potholes. And my car's getting damaged, and then no one ever comes to fix it. Think you can do something about it? Sure, of course. I'm going to make a call tomorrow to the Department of Transportation or the Department of Buildings, or whatever department deals with it. And I'm going to see, and you'll be in touch with me, and I'll keep you posted. Yes, that happens. Now, if the regular person in the district calls the office and makes that same complaint, they may get a similar response, but they're not going to get it as quickly, and they may not get it directly from the city councilor or the state senator or the congressman themselves. Yes, if you give a lot of money to a campaign, your calls are going to be answered. Now, this doesn't mean regular people, the average guy not giving money, is not getting calls answered. I've called my local congresswoman or congressperson where I live, and I've asked questions in the past about certain random things with, expediting passports and stuff like that, and they've been very pleasant. The mark of a really good elected official is somebody who has really good constituent services. If I was in politics, my top priority every day would be constituent services. I would have the best constituent services operation in the country, because I know that if you do that, first of all, you're never going to lose an election. Anybody who's good at constituent services will always win. I'm talking like extraordinarily good. And again, Al D'Amato, who was arguably the greatest constituent services of any senator or elected official in New York when he was senator for 3 terms, he eventually lost. But for those 3 terms, he won as a Republican senator in New York. And the reason he won was because his constituent services were second to none. And he understood that. He understood it was about the passports, the visas, the application for different, programs, and he was there for you.
So every person would tell their friends, "Oh, he's so great." How does it play
Everybody
out?
knew that if you needed something in the state Senate level, you called. If you needed something from a senator from the federal government in Washington, you called Al D'Amato. Al D'Amato constituent services were extraordinary. I met cab drivers who told me that they had trouble when their wife came to the country from wherever it was, either Bangladesh or India, and they arrived here and they couldn't get papers and she was going to get deported, and they called D'Amato, and he worked tirelessly to make sure that the papers would get filed, and he called people in the immigration department so the family wouldn't be split up. I mean, we're talking very nice, regular working class people in New York, and he was good like that, and that's why he won 3 terms. And honestly, if he hadn't said the Putz thing in 1998, he probably would have won 4. Probably would have won in 98 too. He shouldn't have lost that race. But he made a couple mistakes towards the end.
What do you think about Governor Shapiro, Pennsylvania?
I think he's okay. I mean, I wouldn't. I'm a Republican. I wouldn't have voted for him, but I think he's in a very uncomfortable position in the party now. I think the party's changing.
He's too center?
He's too centrist. He's Jewish, so he has a relationship with Israel. The state of Israel is becoming very controversial, something it never was for a very long time.
So J.D. Vance, Shapiro in elections, who do you vote for?
Oh God, I don't think Josh Shapiro is going to be the nominee. So I don't know
Let's
the
say.
answer.
I'm just saying. Well, let's say.
It's a good question.
You're not going to answer it publicly.
No, it's not up to publicly. I don't know. I have to see if J.D. Vance changes his act. The J.D. Vance of today, it would be a very hard vote for him, and that's a difficult thing for me to say. It would be very tough, and I've never voted for a Democrat in my life, but I would have voted for Cuomo for mayor over Sliwa, who's just nuts. Totally nuts. He's so crazy. He's so crazy.
Did he calm down now, or did he feel
he's
stupid? Or no?
He's crazy. Shame on people who are convincing him to continue this. He was in an article last week in the paper, and they were saying, do you feel any remorse about what happened? And he pretty much, I'm paraphrasing, I hated Cuomo. He's a bad guy, and I got him now. I got my revenge. Like, revenge? Who are you? You have cats. You're a cat person. You got revenge on him? What's your revenge? Like, what did you do to get revenge? Like, because he lost, because you wouldn't cooperate to try to stop Mamdani from being the mayor of New York, which a lot of people didn't really want. Like, what did you win? Did you win something? You won nothing.
Let's
go ahead.
Which taxes or rule things do you think the mayor-elect Zoran will get into play? What's your feelings, or now that things are
I think
settling?
The city of New York is going to become very anti-Israel very fast. In any way, shape, or form, he can move the issue on that. He will, and he'll do it within a day. It'll be quick.
What about the taxes and things like that?
Which taxes?
Corporate taxes.
I think he may get them. I think he shouldn't get them. I think businesses. He wants to tax businesses for the permission to do business in New York. I think most people will just move their businesses out of New York City. No one is going to listen. I knew caterers when they raised the minimum wage in New York. They picked up their commissaries and they moved outside the 5 boroughs. They couldn't pay. It's too much.
Oh, so there's different minimum wage in New York City and Long Island?
New York City had a different minimum wage.
Still does, or it's the same?
I'm not sure. Some of them went to New Jersey. It was lower. It wasn't just minimum wage. There's other costs of doing business in New York. It's not cheap to do business in New York. It's not the smartest place in the world to open a business. I mean, there's more banking jobs being created right now in Texas and North Carolina than here. And it's not just because of the weather. I mean, it's expensive to do business here. The cost of living is very high. Mamdani makes one point which has some value. He says that if we can lower the cost of living in New York, it'll make it easier for people to, then the salaries don't have to raise so high. But his numbers don't. Socialist numbers never make any sense. Like 2 + 2 = 16 all the time. Like nothing adds up. Like his numbers don't make any sense. I mean, he knows they don't make any sense. The free bus thing, 50% of people aren't paying for the bus now. Like 50% of New Yorkers are not paying to go on the bus now.
It says like fear required on blinking.
No, they're not paying.
Because they just walk out.
You want to do a test? Take your camera. You do everyday people,
Yes.
your thing. Go on the bus and try to walk on the bus on your phone, talking to people if they paid for the bus. You'll find out that a lot of people didn't pay to go on the bus.
Right.
There's nobody stopping you from going on the bus. You can go in the back door and nobody cares.
COVID
Nobody's paying to go on the
especially
bus.
got used
Every
to.
time I pay to go on the bus now, if I take a bus up 3rd Avenue, I put my phone down. They have that thing where it's the tap thing. I feel like I'm doing such a mitzvah because I know that half the people on the bus aren't paying. It's almost like a charity. Look at me, I'm paying to go on the bus, and nobody else is paying to go on the bus. I see people walk right on the bus, off the bus, on the bus. Jumping turnstiles. They make it seem like the only problem in New York is that everything's so expensive. In New York today, if you don't want to pay to go on the subway, you don't pay on the bus, no one's going to stop you.
Tickets for the subway. No, they do arrest.
Have you seen anybody get arrested for jumping a turnstile in a long time? They're not They're not arresting you from stealing from Dwayne Reed. Right. So now they're arresting you for jumping on the bus. Why did they lock up the toothpaste? Think about it. They lock up toothpaste.
Right.
In my life, I never saw them lock up toothpaste.
And Red Bull.
Red Bull and toothpaste and Oreos and there's stuff they don't lock up, right? Like what's one they don't lock up? Anti-itch cream. That they're not locking up. Nobody's really interested in it right now. But maybe if there's a rise in diseases that people can get herpes, they're going to need it. I have no idea.
Theoretically, if the mayor-elect stays, let's say, for 10 years, do you think...
By the way, it's good they lock up toothpaste.
Yeah?
Well, because people are brushing their teeth.
It's a good sign.
I mean, it would be pretty bad if they were only locking up the candy.
Do you believe if the mayor stays for 10 years, you're able to book a hotel in the Plaza Hotel for $50 a night one day?
No. It's not going to become like that. It's going to become like a European city.
I would love to stay at the Plaza.
Have you ever been to Europe recently?
No.
So in Europe, New York is like Europe right now. It's becoming like a European city. Regular people don't live in... If you go take a cab in Paris, I'll give you a good example. I was in Paris not long ago. You talk to the cab driver. So the first question I ask a cabbie all the time is, first question I always ask a cab driver is the same thing. I said, where do you live? Where are you from? So very often they're from all over the world. Very rare you meet a French cab driver who was born and raised. That aside, a lot of them come from India, they come from Pakistan, they come from Bangladesh,
Africa.
A lot of them come from North Africa, from Tunisia, Algeria, whatever. Where do you live? I took in my recent trip, probably took 10 cabs over 6 days, 15 cab rides. I didn't meet one cab driver who lived in Paris. Not one. It's too expensive. We live in the suburbs. It's not a crime. It's not a crime that not everybody can afford to live on Park Avenue. It's not a crime that people live in the suburbs, and they live in New Jersey, and they live in Connecticut, and live in Westchester, and they live in the Bronx, they live in Queens. It's okay that not everybody can afford to live in Soho. You know, the problem with a lot of these young people who are from Mamdani is they haven't gotten over that. What do you mean it's not fair? It's not fair. A lot of things are not fair. I feel bad. I want to be able to afford to live in those neighborhoods, but I can't afford to live in either. Most of my friends can't. They're out of the range of people I know who are in seven figures to live in the city. I know people who are in seven figures who could not live in Manhattan and raise a family here. So it's too expensive. But it's not the whole New York. New York's a big place.
If they, I'm just numbers wise, could they just build another 1 million apartments? Let's say in Brownsville,
they have to change the zoning laws.
And Bronx, in the Bronx.
You know what's
will
his
the
name?
prices go down? More available? How does that work?
Fareed Zakaria, who's a commentator on CNN, he said something really interesting recently. He said the only cities in America right now that are overpriced are cities in Democratic states. It's a fact. What are the most expensive cities in America today? Boston, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles.
What about Miami?
Chicago. Miami, but it depends where you go in Miami. It's true to a certain degree, but Miami, there are neighborhoods in and around Miami that aren't that expensive. It's not like New York where like bad neighborhoods are expensive, or not as good neighborhoods are expensive. And Miami is nowhere near as expensive as New York. I mean, you could rent an apartment on the beach in South Florida, in Broward County, either on the beach or across the street or a view of the water for half the price of a one-bedroom apartment in the city. I mean, it's not as expensive as living in New York. Maybe other costs are expensive in Miami. Restaurants I can't speak to. But the cost of an apartment? Nah.
So what's the solution for affordable housing?
We have to
build more, no?
No. You want a really lower price?
If you build another...
They do in Argentina.
What do they do?
He got rid of all the zoning laws.
Oh, so to my point, if they just build another 1 million apartments...
But they have to change the zoning laws. The zoning laws are crazy in New York. They're disincentivizing people from building. And the disincentivization of the building has created high prices. There's not as much supply on the market, and there's 50,000 apartments that are warehoused, which aren't even on the market because there's no incentive to renovate them. I mean, everything we've done, people don't understand that New York City, for the last 20 years, all we've been doing is affordable housing. Our entire policy is affordable housing. And the more affordable housing we claim we're doing policies, housing keeps on getting more expensive. Maybe we should do something different, like get rid of all the zoning laws, get rid of all the rent control laws, get rid of all the rent stabilization laws, grandfather out the people who are in their apartments so they don't have to move, and watch the market move, and let people build, and remove restrictions so the developers can build more apartments and they can build higher buildings. I mean, there are ways to, and get rid of the environmental restrictions on builders in New York. I mean, it's really expensive to build in New York. You know, half of the cost of building, not half, a significant portion of the cost of building in New York is just dealing with the bureaucracy in New York. Department of Buildings and Department, and the Environmental Department, and this department. There's
a piece of land that's up for sale in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I said, let me just dive into it. Like, what does it take to build up a condo? So I called my friend, the banker at Citizens Bank. He's like, Moshe, make sure you have a lot of hard money loans because it'll take a year or two just to get your permits and stuff done and approved. At a hard money loan, you're paying high rates, 12, 15%. Like Moshe, usually the hard money loans breaks up families, breaks up communities because they're all investing on this ground up construction. They all lose all their money because the restrictions and everything is such a headache. To your point,
what do you mean?
That people are disincentivized.
They made another rule this week
that
if you have a multifamily building, it's before the city council. Bob Knackel, who's a big real estate agent in the city for many years, who I used to work for his ex-partner, Paul Massey.
Didn't you work over the campaign,
I worked for
right?
Paul Massey. I know Bob Knackel. I met him. I don't know. I met him.
Right.
But Bob Knackel said that they're passing a law about multifamily housing, and the multifamily housing law in New York, if it passes, which essentially says that you can't sell a multifamily building in New York as you're going to closing unless if you've given all the local nonprofits an opportunity to match the bid for up to 6 months. I mean, nobody's going to want to develop anything in New York. I mean, the further the city goes left, the more it becomes unaffordable. I mean, the left has made New York... Look at Houston. I keep on comparing it.
What big city... Did any big city ever have a affordability problem and then because they did ... things became
more affordable? An affordability problem is not a bad problem. Let's say something publicly.
Okay. Interesting.
Nobody wants to live in places you only want to live in places that are worthwhile to live, and things that are good cost money. So clearly people want to live in New York. But all the while, you don't have to make it overpriced. I don't think the word is affordability. It's overpriced. New York's become overpriced because the cost of doing business and building here is too expensive. So if you could reduce that and get rid
What
of...
about the unions? You didn't mention the unions.
Unions don't have much to do with the build. They only have to do with the construction for the big developers, not the small developers.
Okay.
Not the small multifamily guys. They're not running to unions, but maybe some of them are. But it's just expensive to do everything here.
Right.
Everything is difficult. It's like Europe. Everything's just a pain in the ass.
Right.
The whole New York is a pain in the ass.
Right.
So then they complain that it's difficult and it's expensive. Well, you made it difficult. Rent control was only put in as a price control during World War II. And then after World War II, we got rid of the price controls in this country on everything from stockings to strawberry jelly. And for some reason, this one stuck it out. And it's not done good for New York. It has not been good for New York. Yes, there are people who were able to stay in the neighborhoods within which they live at a low price. But all the while, their children were not able to move into the neighborhoods where they live because they couldn't afford to. So it depends for who and what. Overall, it has not been a success. It has not created a lot of affordable housing. And whatever he plans on doing, rent freezes, it costs too much money to maintain the buildings. There's a guy, Stephen Fulop, who's a Democrat from Jersey City, who's now in charge of rent boards or something in New York. He's like an advisor to he was commenting recently, the cost of maintaining an apartment in Manhattan, New York these days is so expensive that, even if the landlords don't raise rents, they're going to go into foreclosure. Everybody's going to go bankrupt. So then the Mamdani plan comes into effect, which is then the city's just going to buy up all the buildings and everyone's going to live in public housing. I mean, there's no other scenario by which it's going to work. And by the way, public housing doesn't look like New York City. Public housing looks like our public housing. You know what our public housing looks like? Have you seen our public housing in New York? It was never designed to be beautiful. There's no country in the world that ever designed public housing to be pretty on the eyes. It's usually ugly. It's ugly in the UK, it's ugly here, and it was very ugly in the Soviet Union. It's ugly, ugly apartment blocks. Even in Israel, the early developments that they built years ago in Tel Aviv when the founding of the country, they're ugly buildings because the government doesn't really build pretty buildings for people to live in. So if you want to live in beautiful buildings that are aesthetic and pleasing on the eye, you don't go to the federal government or the city or the state to do it. I mean, you made a mess here. I understand the desire for affordability. I understand the desire for low prices. I understand all this stuff. But 2 + 2 doesn't equal 16. And all the numbers in the system are off. It doesn't make any sense. And it's not going to help. You had a mayor de Blasio for 8 years. Nothing got cheaper, okay? You had a Mayor Adams, who up until recently was on the left. Nothing got cheaper. And what's he going to do different than they did? Nothing.
Can we do a shout out for our sponsor, Pesach in the
Southeast. No.
Hold on, is it Southeast or is it
Midwest?
Midwest?
It's still Pesach. My Pesach. Bruce Backman's Pesach in the Southeast.
So why don't we just stick to Bruce Backman Pesach instead of having to change it every time you move hotels?
Because it was marketed a certain way for many years, and
Okay,
Houston's
so
still on the Gulf.
could we rebrand just Bruce Backman's?
Sure.
Okay, Bruce Backman's Hotel.
I don't want to rebrand it. That's not what the website is. It's still Pesach
So change
in
the
the
website.
Southeast. I don't
You
want to
started
change
Pesach in the
website.
Northeast, and you are
we're
Southeast.
keeping it because I'm technically in the Southeast. Houston's on the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay, so PesachInTheSoutheast.com. What's the website?
Pesach in the Southeast is the website.
The best of Pesach Hotel or no?
I won the Jewish Link #1 Pesach program in America.
Wow.
And I didn't even pay for that. They just called me up and said, you won in a poll of people. I'm like, which people? I guess your
Teaneck
guests.
people. Wow.
No, Jersey people.
New Jersey.
But people, I have a lot of guests from there, and they liked it.
We're good, Jan?
Here we go.
Thank you so much for listening to our second episode of Mostly Common Sense with the great Bruce Backman and Moshe
So great,
Frank.
but I appreciate having me on. Thanks you, Moshe, for all the time, and I hope
Have you on? It's our show.
Well, I don't know. I still think anytime somebody invites me somewhere, even when I go to my mother's house, I always say thank you for having me. She's like, I'm your mother. I'm like, I know, but it doesn't mean you want to have me over.
Thank you, Bruce, and let us know when you're running for
I'm not running for
public
anything.
office. We'll see.
Nah, that was good vote for me.
Thank you so much.